You know, it happens to all of us. You can be the king of the gym. You could be leading a running group. You could even be headed for a multisport podium. And bam, you lose your motivation. When does this happen? Why does it happen? And more importantly, how do we get it back? Finding your motivation. Today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast.
Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast
with Garrett Williamson.
Health, wellness, exercise, nutrition, and a whole lot more. Got questions? Call us and leave a message at 251-278-EDGE or message us at Personal Edge Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, at Team PE on Twitter, or personaledgefitness.com.
You know, just this past weekend, I was talking to a good friend of mine. He enjoys exercise. It's something we talk about a lot. He's a super guy, great individual. We've crossed paths in the fitness world off and on. He's actually been involved with one of my trainers, and he competes in different events and seems to enjoy it quite a bit. He actually is a fan of this podcast, which I appreciate him listening to. But he said something to me. He said he kind of fell off the wagon. That's a phrase a lot of people use for a lot of things, but, you know, fitness is something very common to say, well, you know, I kind of fell off the wagon. I know what everybody's talking about when they say that. I see that quite a bit. But he said something interesting to me. He said, you know, I'll give you a call, but I gotta find my motivation. And I found that very interesting. And I found it interesting because it was extremely honest. You know, that he just admitted that he wasn't motivated. I mean, we talked about a couple of different things he thought about doing. We talked about the fact that he's been carrying on some walks, you know, not the level of fitness that he'd done in the past, but trying to keep the ball in the air. But he wasn't on his game. And I found it interesting that he said, I've got to find my motivation. And the reason I say that's very honest is that many people will say that, well, I don't have time. I'm not, can't afford to go to a gym, you know, whatever reason, a myriad of excuses. I can sit here and it's funny, late in the day, and maybe I'm a little low on water, but I can usually rattle off the excuses left, right, and center, you know, about why not to get involved in fitness. And what that all boils down to is you're not motivated. I mean, truly, you can't sit and tell me, well, I'm motivated, but I just don't have time. Oh, I'm motivated. Well, you know, that's not true, and I'll show you what I mean. You're motivated to have a job. Now, you may not think you are. You may say, well, you know, I don't like my job. I don't hate it. I'm not motivated to go. I have to go. Well, why do you have to go? Well, I have to go to put food on the table. I have to go to take care of my kids. I have to go to have a place to live, to buy clothes, whatever. Well, there you go. Kids, clothes, place to live, food on the table. There's your motivation. You're motivated. Anything that you make come to pass, well, you're basically motivated. If you're going to make it out to a club on Friday night, you may throw work aside, you may forget other obligations, but if you make that come to pass, well, I promise you, you're motivated. That's the reason that whatever that event that you had planned took place, you were motivated. But the reason I say that was so honest about him just saying this is that he's not using an excuse. He's not saying that I don't know of a place to go. We talked a little bit about that, but that wasn't the bottom line. The bottom line was, you know, I'm just not motivated. And the more I thought about that, I thought, well, you know, that's more than enough of a topic for a podcast. It's something that I think of daily, you know, so much so that I don't think of it. I think of it like breathing. Think about, you know, well, helping people with finding their motivation. What is motivation and what's going on? Most importantly, how do we get it back? But almost as important as that is, you know, what happens? Why do we lose our motivation? Well, I think I've said this in every single podcast. I'll probably say it, and that is I run my little mini resume. I've been a personal trainer for 29 years, and it's never failed in any situation where somebody came in and told me a great story about how they used to be able to do, or they used to do, you know, I used to run 5 miles a day. I used to work out every single, you know, I trained with so-and-so, and we trained, and I never missed a day, you know, back in such and such. I used to do this, and then I stopped. I fell off the wagon. I quit. I whatever. There's something in common with every single one of those. In 29 years, I've never seen this not happen. The one simple thing, and that is your cheese got moved. Now, What am I talking about? Well, if you're familiar with the Dr. Spencer Johnson book that came out around 1997, 98, somewhere around there, called Who Moved My Cheese, he talks about that. It's a fantastic book if you've never read it. It's a very quick read, and if you have, you'll remember the characters of Sniff, Scurry, Hem, and Haw, and the fact that they are actually in a maze, and well, you go read the story if you haven't read it before. If you have read it, you know what I'm talking about. But it boils down to this. It's a great book about successfully dealing with change. And it talks about somebody moving your cheese. It talks about experiencing change and how you deal with it. And there's several different great things to learn out of the book. I highly recommend you read it. But that's what happened in every single one of these instances. There was a change. There was a lifestyle change. And that's the key. Of course there was a change, Garrett. They quit working out. Well, yeah, but I'm talking about there was a lifestyle change. Something occurred which made them stop working out. Something changed in their life. Now, you can have something as simple as the gym closed down. You can have something as complicated as my wife and I had a child. Whole schedule got disrupted. Whole lifestyle changed. I got out of college. I went into a job. I started a new job. I met someone. I had an injury. Whatever it is, every single one of those was not just I fell off the wagon. Every single one of those was a result of a lifestyle change. If we look at it as something simple, if we look at it as, well, I just stopped eating that way, or, I just kind of stopped running one day. No, go back and look at it. I promise you, there was some lifestyle change. And understanding that is very important. The reason I say that is that if we chalk it up to, well, it was no big deal, it was just my laziness that caused it or what have you, then we're not really dealing with the problem. Because if you want to learn how to get back on the horse, you want to learn how to get back on the wagon, you want to learn how to get motivated, you need to find out what changed that made you lose your motivation. And you need to go back and see what was driving you before that. And I promise you, tell yourself it's because of certain type of exercise I was doing or what have you. No, it was more to it than that. It's the whole lifestyle surrounding it. It's not a machine. It's not just run to run to run. It was the way you felt about yourself. It was the way you felt when you went to that place. It's the relationship we see this a lot with our trainers, the relationship that develops between a trainer and a client. Them coming in and dumping their problems and being able to work out their stress, what have you. There are parts of it that kept your motivation. Now, your driving force for making the decision to make a change may be different, and we've talked about that in prior podcasts. I will talk about that again. But briefly, making a decision to make a change is all spiked, especially in fitness world, is spiked by you don't feel comfortable with where you are. Our mission statement is we seek to make people feel better about being themselves. The whole reason people come to see us is they don't feel good where they are, which is the beginning of their program. And then, of course, that's kind of their motivation to make a change. And now we need to stoke it from there and keep it going. But if you lost your motivation, I promise you there was a change. There's some sort of change in your lifestyle. Now, getting it back there's several different ways to approach that. There are several different little tricks. But the most important is, how are you going to make yourself feel better about being yourself? What change are you going to need to make? What is really missing in order to make you feel better about being yourself? And the first thing I would say in any of this, and I've got some tips here of things that you can do to try to get yourself going again, but the first one is the most important, and that's focus on the why. And in many cases, it's focus on the what. And what I mean by defining your why, that's what we look for with every single client. My trainers, I'm very proud of them. They're able to do this in one sentence. They can describe, after they spend enough time with a client, they can describe a client's why. The whole reason why they came in and said, you know what I want to do? I really want to lose 10 pounds. I want to get down to this weight. You know what I really want to do? I want to get stronger. You know what I really want to do? I want to kind of fix this shoulder. I promise you, even injuries, people have a why behind that injury. And you may think, oh, obviously, they want to get that shoulder fixed. Of course, it's not working. They're going to get it fixed. Now, there's plenty of people walking around with rotator cuff damage that don't want to do anything about it, have no concern to do anything about it. It doesn't affect how they feel about being themselves, so they're not concerned with fixing it. But finding that why is extremely, extremely important. Really centering in on your why will get you emotionally tied and emotionally invested in your workout and your exercise. And what does an emotional investment do? I'll show you. You have kids? Do you think by any chance you have an emotional investment there? Well, obviously. Love them more than life itself, and nothing would ever get in your way in finding them the best and providing for them. Because you have an emotional attachment. Now, I know that working out, of course, not the same as your children, but it does tell you what an emotional investment is. And anybody that really enjoys working out, enjoys exercising, enjoys what they're doing as far as their exercise is concerned, I promise you it's because of an emotional investment. If you were working out before and you've stopped, first thing, notice, okay, what changed? What changed in your lifestyle? Well, I had kids and I still got kids and whatever. Okay, fine. But that was the change. Evidently, your lifestyle changed. Well, in your life prior, you may have thought you were busy then until you had children. Now you realize what busy really is. But you thought you were busy then. You think you're busy now. I promise you, there's time to work out. There's time to exercise. And so go back and find, okay, why was I exercising then? What was my motivation? What was my why? What was my true why? Let's delve into that true why for a minute. Let me get into this. I've got several athletes that we work with. And from my youngest athletes to my adult athletes that I have, they're competing in 5Ks, or they're competing in century rides, or some of them that are competing in multisport on national and international level. Believe it or not, the motivation for all of that is the same. We give adult athletes kind of a different moniker. We call them, weekend warriors and stuff like this. But it's really no different. I see no difference in the motivation that my 11-year-old swimmer has any different than my 59-year-old multisport athlete has, or my soon-to-be retiree who's getting back into multisport. The motivation is the same. They feel better about themselves. It makes them feel better about themselves. Now, how does that make them feel better about themselves? Well, a younger athlete may like the adulation of being on the podium or out there and racing and being around their friends and being a part of the group and being one of the team players or one of the stars on the team. That may be their motivation. They may generally like I remember being a pole vaulter, and of course I liked the idea that I did this crazy sport that everybody thought was, wow, you're a pole vaulter? That's really neat. Well, yeah, that's kind of neat hearing that, especially if you're hearing that from some members of the opposite sex that happen to be very attractive and you're interested in. But also, I remember just the feeling of my Lord, back in high school, falling safely from 13 feet, and landing. It was just a great feeling. It was really neat. And I felt better about myself when I hit certain goals. Believe it or not, that was my why. All that made me feel better about being myself. Whether I qualified for the varsity team when I was an 8th grader, that made me feel incredible. Whether I was making my parents proud, whether I got to wear the track jacket in high school, and had friends asking me about my PR and go, "Gosh, weren't you state champion? That was amazing." I had a girlfriend that was cheering me on. That all felt great. That all made me feel better about being myself. Let's translate that to the older athlete. Older athlete, they're doing it for the same reasons of making themselves feel better about being themselves. But I've got older athletes that, it makes them feel alive, younger. I hate using that moniker because that associates disability with age, and I don't believe in that. But ideally, younger, still a competitor, still an athlete. Just because you time passed on a calendar does not make you not want to compete. Which is why what drives us to do these different things, it makes us feel better about being themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly fine. I hate the weekend warrior moniker, and the reason being is because it gives it a negative connotation. Oh, yeah, you're not worth a darn during the week. You're just a weekend warrior. No, actually, I'm doing it because it means something to me. It's very important to me. That's motivation. That's making yourself feel better about being yourself. That is your why. And being honest enough, one thing, to know that you're lacking the motivation. Second thing, to really truly finding what your why is and being able to say what your why is. I promise you, if you're telling yourself, well, I run just because I run, it has nothing to do with the why. I don't know what he's talking about. You're just lying to yourself because you are motivated and there's a why there. And knowing what that why is incredibly valuable. And the clients that I work with that can define that why, that are not ashamed. I don't know why there's that connotation with that, or there's some sort of a shame associated with understanding why you do something. But they can really verbalize that why. Those that can really verbalize that why are far, far more successful. Well, let's look at some tips as far as finding your motivation. I'm going to throw this out there real quick, that if you're interested in help to find that why, love to work with you on that. Obviously, it's something I talk about quite a bit. Be more than glad to spend time with you trying to find your why. I don't mind working with you on that. You can contact me at Garrett@personaledgefitness.com. You can call me at our mobile location at 251-341-0927. Reach out to us on our website at personaledgefitness.com, and that's also our Facebook page, Personal Edge Fitness. Be more than glad to speak to you about finding your why or narrowing down your why. And not only would I enjoy doing it, any of my directors would love to speak to you about that. It's something that they search for because they know that's what really motivates a client, why they're here. Now, finding motivation or finding reasons to get going. Well, these are tips for looking for a why, I guess you'd say, or creating a why even. One of them is, believe it or not, pick a cause. I mean, there's so many different athletically associated fundraisers out there. And there may be something that you're very passionate about as far as some nonprofit. In fact, I'd be surprised if there isn't some nonprofit that you're passionate about. Well, go find it. Go see if you can kill two birds with one stone. Go see if they've got some sort of athletic event, a run, a walk, a cycling event, a multisport race, a adventure race, whatever. Go find if they've got something like that, and that'll help give you a why. That's taking your existing passion and putting it into good use as far as exercise is concerned. And that's actually creating a why. And if you were working out prior to and you quit and you use this pick a cause reason to find a why, well, then I promise you, as you go along that journey, you'll find your true fitness why again. One of the biggest ones that we talk about quite a bit, even though we have the most qualified staff in the Southeast, and every staff member has at least a bachelor's degree in the field of either exercise science, exercise physiology, kinesiology, sport medicine, or athletic training. Even though we have all of that, the main reason that people come to see us, and the biggest thing we sell is accountability. And there's several ways to get accountability. Of course, calling us up, setting up an appointment, and having somebody put in control of your fitness program so that you do have a successful program, whether it's training for a race or just losing weight. Having somebody else take responsibility creates an accountability, creates somebody there that you are accountable to. But there's other ways of being accountable. Be accountable to a family member. Reach out to somebody that means a lot to you, that you know, that sort of like they talk about those friends. A good friend will come bail you out of jail, but your best friend will be in jail with you laughing about, gosh, that was fun. You want to kind of grab that person that you can tell all your secrets to. And hey, look, I'm trying to get back in shape. I want to get back where I was or whatever. I want you to help me with some accountability. Reach out via social media. Can be a great tool. Yet another way to finding accountability. Okay, everybody, I'm doing this. I want everybody checking on me on this. You know as well as I do, there are plenty of people that live on social media. They'll be more than glad to follow up, especially people that really love pointing out everybody else's problems. They'll definitely hold you accountable. How about avoiding falling off the wagon again? Let's say you take the first step. You found a cause, and you want to start running. You want to start doing something. But now, okay, taking that first step, how do I get it going? Well, first thing, schedule it. Put it on your calendar. Put the date of the event on the calendar, and then put the date on when are you going to start, what time, when is this going to happen? Now, if you're already making excuses about, gosh, I'm kind of busy, I'm going to do it as soon as I get time, well, you're not going to have time. That's why you're going to put it on your schedule. But if you know that you're making those excuses already, let's clear some other things out of the way. Have a backup bag in your car. I would have gone to the gym today, but I didn't have any clothes to work out in. Okay, fine. Pack a bag and have it in your car. It's also a nice reminder of, hey, got to get exercising today. If you're an early morning exerciser, sleep in your clothes. I'm serious. Sleep in your clothes. I knew a runner that had taken up running, he liked it, and he really wanted to make sure that he got into it and kept going and did not get interrupted. So he would put his shoes literally beside the bed and sleep in his running shorts. And he would turn, his feet would not hit the floor. They would hit his shoes. Lace up his shoes, and out the door he went. So, sleep in your clothes. If you're an early morning riser and you want to make sure that you're getting up to exercise, take your alarm clock, put it across the room out of reach. So that you have to literally get up just to even try to think about hitting the snooze button. You might want to put your running shoes where you trip over them on the way to the alarm to get yourself going. If you were in a running group before, you had some people that were involved in exercise with you prior to, well, call them up. Maybe getting the band back together might be exactly what all of you need. If you've fallen off the wagon, hey, it's quite possible that they have too. You may have been their motivation. That part of that relationship of getting together and doing those things, you may be that key. So call the group, call the band together. This is a tip I use actually to make me look forward to a long drive I may not be looking forward to. And that is listening to a podcast. Now let's say there's a podcast that you've been dying to listen to. Well, you know, if you haven't done any exercise or you're doing some cardiovascular work in that exercise, well, plan on, okay, when I go for that run or go for that walk or get on that elliptical or whatever, I'm going to listen to that podcast I've been wanting to listen to that I quote unquote don't have time to. Now you're killing two birds with one stone. And you're creating a little bit of motivation there. A little motivation to actually get working out again. All right, I talked about my people, which are early risers, because I get up at gosh awful 30 every single morning. What about you people that like to work out after work? One tip is to make sure you exercise before you go home. Because if you go home, you're going to have interruption after interruption after interruption. This is why you have that bag packed in your car. And you go the way you have to go to the gym on the way home. You have to go by it. I don't care if you have to reroute your entire course to avoid your house. Make sure you're driving by the facility in order to go get your workout in before you go home. And when you do choose something, you know, you're getting back on the wagon. Don't go drag yourself through exercises you don't like. Go find the ones you really enjoy doing. Start off with the fun stuff. And if you have to, break it into small increments. You know, 10 minutes of working out when you haven't been working out whatsoever is a step in the right direction. Don't beat yourself up because, you know, I didn't have an hour and a half because I couldn't go work out. No, go do 10 minutes. Rolling out of the bed first thing in the morning and knocking out 10 push-ups. Hey, look, it's 10 more push-ups than you did the day before. It's getting you on your way. It's helping you create that motivation. Now, I've got some other tips, and if you're interested in those, please email me. I'll be more than glad to send you quite a few tips on that. Remember, just like you fell off the wagon this time, you could possibly have that happen again. So remember the lessons from that book I told you about at the beginning. Who Moved My Cheese? Lesson number 1, change happens. Happened before? It's going to happen again. So anticipate change. Number 2, plan on it. It's going to happen. Don't just say, hey, look, this is never going to change. I'm going to be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 o'clock and never going to miss. I promise you, change is coming. I'm seeing that right now with clients that have been with me over 23 years, and they are seeing major change right now. Number 3, monitor your change. You know why now. If you don't know now, you'll find out why you stopped working out last time, why you stopped exercising. You know those changes that came in your life. So monitor it. You know, if it was a baby, hey, look, when you're trying to have another baby or stuff, okay, wait a second now. Last time I got off my fitness program, what am I going to do? What kind of timeline do I have here? Because this change I know is coming because I'm monitoring that. Number 4, adapt. Adapt and change quickly. Those businesses that survived the pandemic, the ones that survived the pandemic adapted and changed quickly. It's very important to make those quick changes. Make sure you can pivot on the fly, and you'll be more successful about not losing your motivation. Okay, you know that change happens. You've anticipated the change. You're monitoring the change. You've adapt and changed quickly. Now, well, step number 5 is change. As simple as it seems, yeah, change. Just move with the cheese. Adapt to the change and actually make that change. Now, the last part of it is very important. Very important. Enjoy the change. The time that you fell off the wagon beforehand, you didn't plan and anticipate the change. The change just happened and you let it disrupt everything in your life instead of anticipating it, monitoring it, and changing quickly. And most importantly, once you've made that change, hey, look, this is it, man. During the pandemic, we talked about this ridiculous, I get tired of this phrase, but it's true, that the new normal. You've had several new normals in your life. And this new change is just your new normal. When you were in school and you graduated that school and went on to college or went on to another job or whatever, that was a change. That was your new normal. Well, that's what this is too. You can get your motivation back. Think about your why. Think about what changed. Analyze it. Look what made you motivated before. Discover that why again. And get back to living your level of wellness. Hey, if I can help you out with that, don't think twice about calling me. Call me at my mobile location at 251-341-0927. You can contact me via email at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. That's our website and our Facebook page. Hey, folks, thank you so much for joining me today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. Stay well and find your own level of wellness.
Thanks for listening to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Subscribe now and be a part of the show by calling 251-278-EDGE or message us on Facebook and Instagram at Personal Edge Fitness or at Team PE on Twitter, and visit us at personaledgefitness.com.